Simple obedience. What does real compassion look like? What happens when we let God take our ordinary lives and add His extra? For more than 40 years, Global Outreach International has been working to attempt just that. A dream was expressed to do away with unnecessary restrictions which kept people from serving on the mission field. At a time when short-term missions was uncommon, a vision was presented to involve ordinary people in God's extraordinary work. Sammy Simpson, the founder of Global Outreach International, shares about these simple beginnings.
I grew up on a farm in North Mississippi, and my dad believed when you were old enough to walk, you were old enough to work. And so as a 13-year-old boy plowing in one of the fields of my dad's farm, where I could sing and pray aloud and no one could hear me. And that's when I accepted the Lord's call on my life as far as going into mission work. We first went to Costa Rica in 1964 to study Spanish. We were there a year, and then we went on to Ecuador. And we set up a agriculture demonstration farm, and also we did a church plant out in the rural area of Ecuador on the western slopes of the Andes. Our desire was to get short-termers involved in mission work, because during this time when we saw how they helped so much in church plants, as well as helped us out reaching out into the community with young people as well as adults, then we became very interested in getting more teams involved.
David and Judy Hetty, Global Outreach Missionaries to Haiti, are great examples of God calling ordinary people into an extraordinary work.
I'm asked many times, where did you go? What Bible school did you go to? What seminary did you go to? I went to the University of the Holy Spirit. So He is our teacher. Christ promised, that's one of His covenant promises, that the Holy Spirit would be our teacher. And He's the one who has poured His life into me and through me, because I've often said to people, I am a nobody who God made a somebody so that I might tell everybody about a somebody who loves everybody.
Shortly after following Christ, David found himself face to face with the image of need as he saw slides from a missionary to Haiti.
4 children, all of them little boys, naked in a mud hole with a black pig. Those kids were all red-haired, pot-bellied from worms. God said to me that night, that sweet Holy Spirit said, that is my creation. I love them as much as I love you.
Soon after that, David found himself in Haiti on a short-term mission trip when a mission agency asked him to survey some property they were considering purchasing.
And I pulled off the road there. I backed up and I looked. There was no fences, there was no houses, there was nothing but just barren land, and what you're looking at right across the field over here, just thorn bushes everywhere. But I looked at that career missionary that day and I said, nobody but a fool would come to this desert and attempt to do anything. And 5 years later, God said, okay, little fool, it's time for you to go to the desert. And I've been here now for 25 years.
As a result of the Hettys' simple obedience, thousands of lives have been touched with the gospel, thousands have been healed in the clinics which were started, and many Haitians have been raised up as ministers through their teaching.
There's a real myth that a missionary on the mission field is this super person, and that is not true at all. Anybody that knows me well knows that that is not true at all. What it is it's when God calls you to something, He equips you to do that. And so for any of you, if you feel like God is calling you to something and you don't feel like you have the skills, just like Moses said, I can't speak, I do not have that ability. Well, God gives you that ability. When I walked into that clinic, I was extremely fearful because I thought, I cannot speak this language. I cannot treat burns the way they need to be treated. I haven't been trained in that yet. And yet God, step by step, gave me the ability to do that. And there's no magical formula. There's not some super spiritual thing that happens. It's just walking by faith, day by day, taking those steps, saying yes to the Lord when He asks you to do something and walk in that, and then He gives you the strength. It is not us, but He promises that His strength will be perfected in us. And He does that, and boy, have we experienced that living here on the field, because it's not us.
What began as a dream on the fields of Mississippi has spread into the fields of many nations. A dream of sending ordinary people on short-term mission teams, God changed into a missions agency that now serves over 200 missionaries in more than 40 countries and more than 1,600 short-term missionaries every year. Whether it be the fields of Ecuador, the desert land of Haiti, the savannas of Africa, the mountains of Eastern Europe, the buoys of Belize, or the airwaves of Iran, some people would have said these places were not the best locations to begin new work. But because God gave the dream to someone, we as Global Outreach chose not to stand in the way of God's leading. Global Outreach has stood out as a gentle reminder that when the people of God do the will of God in the way of God, amazing things can happen. But we cannot do this alone. We need your help. Global Outreach missionaries serving around the world need your prayers and your support and your encouragement. But they also need a support base to do their work from. Global Outreach International is that support base. Through providing services such as missionary training before they get to the field and ongoing training on the field, through financial management and accountability, through donor communications and relations, through pastoral care, we provide essential services that enable the missionary to do what they're called to do. But we also dream of greater opportunities of ministry, of training a new generation of missionaries here in the States. You know, as we face a very difficult time in our country and in the world, many organizations would say that it's time to pull back from out of the camp ministry. But I believe that this is the chief time that we need to move forward in new work areas to do a greater work, because the world is crying out for purpose. The world is crying out for the gospel of the kingdom. We invite you to come alongside Global Outreach to get involved in what God is doing. We need your prayers. We need your financial support to enable us to continue to send new missionaries. Please pray about if the Lord would have you to get involved. Thank you for everything you do, and thank you for your prayers.